Hey, it's Tim.
And it's Amy from GoWithLess. If this is your very first time joining us, this is not our normal kind of video. What we normally talk about is our early retirement. We've been retired since 2015. Our early retirement, budget travel, travel hacking, things like that. We're not talking about that so much today. I'm going to get into feelings. And there's a really good chance that "Hi, it's Tim" is the only thing that Tim is going to say in today's video.
No, I'll say a few more words.
Often I gotta drag, so you think, you may or may not think, I do a lot of talking in the video. I'm a real chatty kind of person. Tim is not that way, so I'm dragging stuff out of him, and if we get Tim to talk a lot on a video, that's a big deal. But when we're talking about a lot of deep feelings, I don't know that we're gonna hear so much about him.
Probably not, but
We'll see. He's sitting here anyway for our male half, just to have someone to relate to. But if you are not relating to this topic, you may be with someone who is relating to this topic, so I still encourage you to tune in. Every single Wednesday, we come out with a video about our normal kinds of topics, and I hope that you will subscribe to see what's happening in the future. Ring the notification bell. Hopefully you give it a thumbs up, because this is, like I said, it's a more personal one, and I would love a little support here. But what I'm going to talk about is the purging of our stuff. I promised an upcoming video on the downsizing of our things. We have downsized already from 6,000 square feet plus 3 garages, like a 3-car garage, to where we are now, 1,800 square feet with a 1-car garage, and we are getting to 25 square feet. That is where our entire life is going to be in the very near future, in a month. And so this is massive. And this whole Marie Kondo and downsizing, what I'm learning is that this downsizing is unbelievably personal, and I'm going to share the journey for me, because we have been getting a lot of comments from friends on my Facebook personal page, from our viewers, about the process. We're going to do a video about the process, about kind of the nuts and bolts and the what, and more the technical stuff. This is not about that. And I was saying that I'm going to wait to do that video until we're done on the other side, because we're kind of really in the thick of it right now. So I wanted to say, hey, did we actually get into 25 square feet? How did that go? And we're going to do that when we're on the other side. But I think that it's really important to talk about the feelings as I'm going through it, because we're not seeing that out and about so much. And let me address this. Is there anything you want to say before I keep going for another 5 minutes?
I think that I'm here to support Amy, so certainly I do have my own thoughts, and so I'll share those as well as we go along here.
Okay. First, when I say that purging, your stuff is very personal. Things that matter tremendously to me are not important to many other people. So as an example, I used to have a cookbook. I was a passionate cookbook collector. I had over 500 curated cookbooks that I loved. I read them like books. There are people out there who do this with cookbooks. So people who don't do this have no concept that people do this, and it's kind of amazing, because there is a small community of people who are just as obsessed with cookbooks, read them cover to cover, love them like I do, and they don't really say anything, so no one knows that they exist. Well, they exist, and I'm here to tell you that I'm one of them. And I had over 500 cookbooks. Well, in our last purge, I got rid of hundreds of them. That was a really big deal, but I kept maybe 150 of them. I still got rid of 350 cookbooks, which is gigantic when these are like my babies. Now, in this purge, I got rid of another 100 of my cookbooks. I didn't sell them. I couldn't sell them. Here's the reality. Nobody wants to buy your stuff. It is hard to even get people to take your stuff. That is something I have learned through this journey. I thought, I'll sell my cookbook collection. No, nobody wants anything of yours is really where I am, and that lends to my emotions. But we dropped them off to our library. Some of them are a little bit older.
Actually,
I don't know if they're gonna find a good home.
I dropped them off at the library, and as soon as I dropped them off, the librarians were going through them. They were very excited to see them. So somebody does want this stuff, but finding that somebody or those somebodies is a challenge often.
And I tried to find a good home for my cookbook collection. I wasn't able to really find that. And here is the reality, is that we don't have a lot of time. So do I have time with my cookbook collection is one of thousands of things that we need to be doing this with. So do I have time to ask 50 friends who I think like cookbooks, do you want my cookbooks? I don't, because I got a lot of other stuff and we have a deadline, and that is a major problem. But here's coming back to this personal thing. So I put on my Facebook that, hey, I'm getting rid of a lot of my cookbooks, but I kept my favorite 50. And there are comments that are something like, 50 is still a lot. Now, this is where it becomes personal. 50 for me is absolutely nothing. When these are the things that I love so much, and I understand that every recipe on earth is on the internet. I get that. This is not about recipes. This is about reading a cookbook and having imagining a dinner party. And I've been doing this since I've been 10 years old with my mom's cookbooks and thinking about parties that I might plan at 10 years old. And this is who I've been for a very long time, for 40 years. So it's my creative outlet. It's my inspiration outlet. I am not just looking for a recipe. That's not what this is about. And again, know that it's all on the internet. So anyone who's like, oh, no big deal, just get rid of them, they're on the internet. That is not helpful at all, because they're still my babies and it's my prized collection. If you are somebody who has a cookbook collection or a collection of things that you adore, and other people in your life are giving any, I'm going to call it judgment about the things that you find near and dear that you're having a really hard time parting with, forget listening to other people. You do what feels right to you in your heart. And I have done that with me. I'm really happy that I kept my 50 or so cookbooks. But it is one of many, many, many other things in our life. It's just something that is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I have a lot thicker skin, so I think it gets under Amy's skin whenever people are judging and saying you should get rid of this or you should get rid of that. So the things we're going to keep, we're going to keep. And so we really don't care what other people, or at least I certainly don't care what other people have to say about what we're keeping and not keeping.
And you can see why on this feelings video, Tim ain't going to be talking a whole lot. So, okay. But I will say, I am not a crying kind of a person. The things that make me cry are kind of crazy. It's watching Gene Kelly dance. It's watching a teenage dynamo nail her floor routine in the Olympics. These are maybe it's a sappy rom-com or a tear at your heartstrings puppy commercial on television. Stuff like that gets, that really, moving things get me. But anxiety doesn't make me cry. Anger doesn't make me cry. Even generally sadness doesn't make me cry. I'm somebody who kind of takes action to get to the other side of that. And it has worked beautifully for me throughout my entire life. So I'm happy about that, but I'm not a big crier. I'm going to say I cried when I got rid of my clothes. That really surprised me. And I think that there was a lot happening with that was just my clothes.
And this was a subset of your clothes. So
these were clothes. So I'm going to get into this. So yes, it wasn't all my clothes. I didn't just I'm not just wearing the clothes on my body and that's all I've got. So I had massive amounts. I had already done a giant downsize in 2014, 2015, when we moved into this smaller place. But I had massive clothes. And I'm on the other side. And so now it's time to, I haven't touched these clothes. But here's why this was so emotional. I think that it hit kind of like a midlife crisis. So I was 50 when this all happened. I gave them to a women's shelter for women who've just gotten out of prison. But they were all of my business clothes from the past. It was my wedding dress to Tim that I gave away. It was some of the handbags of my grandmother's. I don't think anyone wants the handbags of my grandmother, but I didn't know what else to do with them, and I have others. So the ones that I really enjoyed, I kept, and I kept some of her other mementos, but I can't keep everything. So I think where the emotion here is that I'm on the other side of my career. While I am 51 years old, in my head, I truly think that I am still in my, I think I'm 28 years old. And I think that age is kind of in your head to some degree. Living the world as nomads with very few things. This is not something that a lot of 51-year-olds do. A lot of 51-year-olds have a lot of stuff and are getting ready for grandkids to come into their lives. They're not looking to be I have nothing in my life on purpose. That is not the norm here.
I have something to say about the clothing that Amy gave away. And I think part of this, and we've talked about this in our prior videos as we're getting rid of our stuff, it's if we find a good home for things, it's not as hard to necessarily give it to a good home. And I think the home that we found for the clothing, we just weren't sure that it was going to go to use. So this was older business attire, and so
it
we don't
still
know.
Great. It was like
great.
Ann Taylor suits.
But it's just, is this audience, the people that are just freshly getting out of prison, are they going to wear a business suit to an interview that they're going to go on?
Yeah.
And so what does that mean to that clothing? Does that mean it's going to get thrown in the dumpster? Is it going to get reutilized? And so I think that makes it harder whenever we make bad decisions, even about giving stuff away, because we want it to have a good home. So I think
that's exactly right. If I had found a good home for that, I couldn't find a good home for it. I called Dress for Success. They only take new dry cleaned clothing. Well, I don't know who's giving all the new dry cleaned clothing to Dress for Success, and that certainly would have been a great outlet. And a lot of these were still like Ann Taylor and Banana Republic and J. Crew and Brooks Brothers. This was my business clothing. I had to dress up in my old life with the kind of career that I had. So a lot of these are timeless things. They generally looked like they were in good shape. Now I'm not going to be wearing them anymore. And also, we're in a place in Colorado, people don't really wear business suits here. So to think that I'm on the other side of my career, while it is thrilling to be retired early, it kind of is a big wake-up call that I am at the other side of my career and I am not in my 20s. And let me share a little bit about the sorts of emotions that I'm going through as we're getting rid of everything. And all of these emotions seem to come for a couple minutes, and then they cycle through to the next emotion, to the next emotion, to the next emotion, and then it all cycles through all over again constantly as long as we're purging. Really at the top is, I'm going to go with shame. So Tim and I try to be kind to the environment. Aside from us doing a lot of travel, which we understand is not the kindest to the environment, we do understand that and we don't feel that great about it, but we are generally pretty good about the environment. And I have been trying to find great homes for our things. But the idea that we have this much stuff is shameful. It's shameful. It's so wasteful. We have estimated that we have given away or sold for 2 pennies on the dollar at least $200,000 of our belongings.
Yeah, I think that's actually an underestimate. We were just having this conversation yesterday, and it's because in terms of the stuff we've given away recently, I think it may look like $200,000. But if we think about a lifetime worth of clothes that I wore and I gave away, or that I wore out and I threw away, but things that weren't consumable that we purchased throughout our life, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff that we consumed and just that ended up in a landfill somewhere, or probably didn't go to a good home. And so it's, I think a lot of the things that I still have in my life, and a lot of the things that drove me when I was consuming, it was the idea that I may find use for this someday. So I have a lot of stuff that's just in the basement, and I still have a hard time getting rid of it, even though it's certainly not going to do us any good sitting in a storage unit for the next 10 years. But it's like, I may use this. I have cables and extension cords and this weird stuff that it's like, well, I'm going to need this when I settle down in 10 years, but do I need to keep it for 10 years? So there's also, I don't think that I feel shameful, but I certainly, I understand where Amy's coming from.
I think the excess is what is so shameful.
Yeah.
The excess of what we've had. And here is something to consider, is that all these big houses that we drive by, they aren't empty. So while it may be easy to look at what I am confessing, I don't think I'm the only one who has a lot of stuff. Let's just put that out there. So as you're driving past these big houses, they're also filled with things. And holy cow.
And I'm going to say, I have something to say here too. And I think that this, and I don't know that we're necessarily being judgmental of other people, but I think that that's just what we do here in this country. It's like we consume.
Shopping is a hobby.
We buy more stuff. Shopping's a hobby, and filling up your home, the bigger the home you have, the more stuff you have to buy to fill up that home. That's just the way that people tend to work. I don't think there's anything, that's the way Americans are wired, is to consume. And there's this saying.
Many Americans
are wired that way. And there's a saying, I think it's something goes like, the boy with the most toys wins, or something
at
to
the
that
end. Whoever has the most toys at the end wins.
Whoever has the most toys at the end wins.
Wrong.
And I think that is a very, very common mentality. And so
at least in the States.
At least here. And so we're choosing to walk away from that, and it's hard.
Okay, next emotion, anxiety. Am I going to need these things? I gave away my yoga mat. I sometimes use a yoga mat. I don't use it enough to keep it in my little 5x5, 25 square foot storage unit. So I've been getting rid of things that I use. I don't have 7, I have 1 yoga mat. I am getting rid of massive amounts of things. And the what if I need to buy this again? I understand that I could buy it again. I think buying anything again is going to give me the most anxiety. I'm going to be in a store in my future, having a panic attack over buying anything after going through this exercise, which is good to be this mindful. But having anxiety of letting go of all of your what ifs. So now we get invited to a holiday party or a Halloween party. We have 0 things to wear because all that's gone.
We're not getting rid of all of our what ifs, by the way. So in that 5x5 storage unit, we still are going to have stuff that sort of fits that what if category. It's just it seems more likely that these things we're keeping are things that we're going to use. Maybe not.
And it's so little, it doesn't even matter, really. It's like I'm walking out of the house with 1 item in my hand. Now, another thing is I'm very nostalgic. And my sister called me maybe in January and said, "Hey, Amy, I'm getting ready to throw our childhood Christmas ornaments in the garbage. They're the ornaments, P.S., that our mother sewed and sequined, and they were on my childhood Christmas tree my entire life." She's like, "I'm going to throw those in the garbage. Do you want those?" Yeah, I want those. So I don't even have a Christmas tree anymore, and those are the only ornaments that we have. This past week, we got rid of, maybe 2 weeks, all of our Christmas stuff, all of our holiday stuff. We had a 6,000 square foot house that was decorated for the holidays. That meant Halloween stuff. That meant Easter stuff. That meant mega Christmas stuff. All of it is gone. We have almost nothing, and the only things that we've kept are family heirlooms, which isn't very much. So that's all gone, and it's kind of sad to say goodbye to these things. Now, I have worry. Am I this new life? Are we we're getting rid of everything? Am I going to like this new life that we're opting into? The only way to try this new life is to do it. I 100% believe that I'm going to love it, or else I wouldn't be going through this exercise. But there is some worry of what if we don't like living place to place to place to place and need to settle down? I have some worry about that. But then there's some incredibly joyful emotions. I am full of glee of our next life. I have been really actively planning our house sits and our next chapter. So Tim has been planning some of it. We kind of take different roles within our planning, but I'm planning where we're going to be at all times. And we have some unbelievable things coming up in the new year as soon as we're on the other side of our house. So to think about the freedom that we're going to have and about the adventures that we're going to have makes me euphoric. So I kind of flip through all these things, and as soon as we're away from these things, I don't have this at all. Today was a real doozy of a day because today's a day I got to my oldest boxes. I had 2 oldest boxes that I've carried around my entire life. I took them to college and I've had them ever since. And they're my yearbooks and they're my scrapbook from growing up and my little turkey handprint for Thanksgiving and stuff like that. And the idea of throwing it in the garbage kind of breaks my heart. And I'm not using them. I'm not looking at them. I know it's a great idea to take pictures and digitize them. Here's the reality. That takes a lot of time. We don't have time. We're looking to be done here in have our house on the market within a month. So, and we have a full 2 weeks. We're not even in town 2 weeks of that next month. So, so you can see that there's a lot happening. Let me see what else on this list. I think that's about it. I'm going to tell you, life is so crazy busy these days. I don't even have time to dry my hair before this video. So that's the kind of life that I'm leading. So that's the kind of life that I'm leading these days is I don't even have time to dry my hair. I certainly don't have time to go through thousands and thousands of pictures, think about them, think about the memories that they contain, share those memories with Tim, digitize them in a way that makes any sense. When is that going to happen? So for those of our audience who are still staying tuned to this complete rant and craziness, thank you very much, because it feels good to get that off my chest. And I know a lot of you are looking to go through this sort of a process yourselves. When we look at people who are on the other side, no one says like I regretted getting rid of stuff. I think maybe one person out of like 100 has ever said that to us, and everyone's like, it's great, but they're already on the other side. It's in the thick of it, like the people who are like, I really should get rid of things, and I've already gotten rid of things. There's a lot of people in all these camps. I thought this video was important because it's the actual process of getting rid of the things that's bringing up so much for me. I thought it was good to share with our audience because I am hearing from so many of you that you've been inspired by our journey to get rid of a lot of your things. And that is maybe one of the best things of all. That's one of the nicest things. So having freedom on the other side of our stuff is going to be our end all be all goal. But going along and knowing that we're making any kind of an impact to others with our experience, like really means a lot to me. So if you have been impacted by our journey to live with less, to get rid of anything, I would really love it if you put any comments down below because that really bolsters me to kind of keep on going and get to the other side. So,
and I'm going to actually ask another question this week. So I'm curious if there are things in your life, for instance, I've gotten rid of all these notes that I passed back and forth between friends in high school. I went through these about a month ago and sort of threw all of them out for the most part. But
we laugh. We had a good laugh.
Are there things like this in your life that you just don't think you're ever going to get rid of, that they're going to sit in a storage bin? You may never look at them, but you just can't get rid of them for whatever reason. So ultimately, I threw these things in the trash. Amy, with her things, she's still trying to decide about some of these things that have been in storage for 20 plus years, and she doesn't know 40 plus years and doesn't know what she's going to do with them. So just curious about what things you have in your life that you would have a hard time getting rid of that you haven't looked at in 40 years and you still can't get rid of it.
And I'll tell you, you have things too, your coin collection.
I do, yeah.
Like it's not like you have nothing and you're like minimalist galore.
That just doesn't have sentimental value. It has intrinsic value. There's value there. But anyway, yes, you're right. I'm not throwing that in the trash.
You're not as sentimental.
Not as, no.
And I'll tell you, so if I ever shed a tear on this channel, it's not that I'm hard as a rock because I'm actually quite a big softie. Not with crying though. I almost cried on this video. That's how like emotional all of this is. So please be gentle in your comments. If you're like, I've already done this, no big deal, girl, get over it. Please don't do that because I'm a little raw. So sharing the real deal with you, and we will see you next Wednesday. Adios.